This thing, right?
Sir, I started.
It shows live, maybe.
Go on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Divya Mahesh Kumar, and on behalf of National Resource Center for EHR Standards, a project of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare at Center for Development of Advanced Computing, I welcome you to the online webinar series 2020. Today we are meeting as NRCS has started this online training for hurdle-free knowledge dissemination across the country. Specific area experts and industry leaders will give training and share their invaluable experience in these webinar sessions. This training will provide an opportunity for users to learn, gain experience, and resolve their queries. Apart from gaining experience from industry leaders, they will also be in continuous connection with us and get regular updates. The first segment of the webinar session will be a presentation, which will then be followed by a question and answer session. As we begin with the session, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Dilip V.S. He is an electrical engineer who started his career with BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, in power plant engineering and soon went on to being an entrepreneur. He has 30 plus years of experience in multiple domains and areas of business, of which 25 years is in entrepreneurship. He started working in EHR in 2012, building solutions for the US market. He then founded Health Life Ventures LLP in 2016 to implement best-in-class EHR solutions for India. He works closely with the eHealth Research Center on socially relevant health tech solutions, healthcare informatics, courses, and research in related areas. I now request Mr. Dilip to start his presentation on achieving semantic interoperability in EHR by leveraging SNOMED CT terminology service, tools, and national extensions. Sir, please unmute yourself and then you can start.
Yeah, I have unmuted. Okay, I can share my screen, I guess. Oh. I'm not getting the share screen option.
So could you try to turn off your video and then try sharing? Maybe that can help.
Yeah, but that option itself is not there. I've got a screen which is okay. Now I've got it. Okay, but it keeps disappearing. I think there's another screen being shared. What I feel, but I'm unable to get that get the controls. Yeah.
So can you try now?
Okay. I think we are on. Something's currently being shared. Okay, there's something being shared, is what it says. Okay. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir. I can see the screen.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Dilip. Okay, thank you NRCS for inviting me to share my experiences with you. As like the introducers spoke, we will talk about achieving semantic interoperability in EHR, and I'm going to talk from my experience, okay, of how we have done it in EHR network in the past 4 years. So it's really an experience. It's not a theoretical discussion here. We're going to talk more about what we found out, and then sharing that learning for everybody to actually take forward. Okay. Why could mean many things. Okay, why I'm here, why you people are here, and why I feel I have something that I can share with you. Okay, I started work in health informatics since 2012. Okay, and I've been involved in contributing to multiple EHR solutions. Okay, this is not giving service on large EHR solutions for the international market, but actually building solutions. Okay, so the learning is actually completely different. So I have a ringside view. I have a very close view of the really good, bad, and the ugly part of building EHR solutions. Okay, so I made mistakes. I've learned from that, and I want to make sure that I share this learnings with everybody so that you don't have to go through those mistakes again. And I've been, since 2016, starting this company, I've been actually chasing a vision of creating those like world-class EHR solutions that are made in India for the Indian market. Okay, I've worked with very outstanding people, including NRCES and other people who have actually helped me in this journey. Okay, so it has never been a journey alone. It has been a journey where a lot of people have helped me, and so I feel it is my responsibility to ensure that I also share and help others in this journey. We found many pathways and made some progress. Okay, and it's a continuous exploration. So I will share some learnings. Okay, actually the learnings will come from ideally creating new solutions. Okay, so the existing people also may benefit, but the whole approach I'm going to take is, okay, if you have to actually look at building solutions, how you can actually choose some findings that we have actually we've learned over the years, which will help you. So you can take what works for you. Okay, so that you can work faster. So that's the whole point of this this discussion today. Okay, so the areas that we are going to first cover in this talk, okay, are one is like we're going to discuss about this data first paradigm. Okay, this is the most important thing in EHR when you get out to start building an EHR solution. It's about treating data as a first-class citizen in an EHR solution. Okay, then EHR standards. Now, this is a very complex area, and I have seen developers struggle to really understand what it means to them. So we'll try to actually make it simple for developers. And what does it mean to developers? Okay, what EHR standards actually mean? What is the expectation from developers? Okay, and we'll also see how we can actually look at designing right the first time. Okay, so that you don't have to go through the iterative process of making mistakes and learning from that. Okay, and we will also try to introduce some resources that you can leverage to make fast progress. Okay, so there are a lot of things that have been done. Okay, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel and to do all of this again. So you just have to leverage what is there out there, and we will hopefully close with how do we achieve EHR Nirvana. Okay, for the developers, where you have a smooth, semantically interoperable EHR system that you have created. Okay, that's the whole goal. Okay. Now, data first. Okay, this is really the first, I think, lesson that we learned. Okay, you have to think of a data first design when you think about EHR, because everything in EHR is about data. The standards, everything in standards about data. So if you look at data and applications, you have to always learn to see how to segregate and view each of them. The needs are very different. For example, it's very true in EHR, because in EHR, the data has got an extremely long life. We're now talking about person-centric EHR. So you are talking about building EHR systems that can take care of information management for the life of a person, which is 80+ years. So you have to think about data being live for 100+ years. Okay, so that's like that's a completely different. Whereas if you look at the application space, it's so dynamic. Like now, every 6 months, if you're a fan of Angular, for example, okay, you can see that every 6 months there is a release. In 2 years' time, when you look back, you won't even you won't even recognize the Angular versions that are running today. Okay, so it's so dynamic, and the interfaces are changing, devices changing. So the application developer has to be very, very agile on their feet. Whereas data, okay, those who manage data has to actually think from a 100-year perspective, and they have to be really careful with what they do with the data. So these are two completely different needs. Okay, and your focus has to be on the data part. Okay, you have to segregate these to manage better. If you try to manage these, they have conflicting requirements, and you are bound to enter the problem. So you have to segregate and make it better. Okay, and manage them better. Okay, you have to treat data as a first-class citizen in an EHR. because they are the first class citizen. It is not the application. Application will change, but the data will not change in EHR. Okay, and the behavior of application has to be data driven. Okay, it cannot be the other way. You can't go back from designing user screens to the data, because there are clear definitions about what EHR data means and how it has to be handled. Okay, so this is my first lesson. Okay, then I struggle with this, so I'm trying to actually see if I can make it simple for you. If you look at, I have listed some of the EHR standards on the right, okay, but there are so many more. Okay, so every turn there is a new standard about data, about EHR interoperability, like APIs, so many things that are coming out. Okay, now what does it actually mean for a developer? Okay, so I've tried to actually simplify it. First of all, everything is about data. None of these standards actually talk about the application. Okay, so that's the first thing. Okay, so you have absolute freedom to develop your application, choose the tools to develop your application, and interfaces. You have absolute freedom. Nobody is actually restricting you in any of those. Okay, but when it comes to data, EHR standards actually come in the picture, and you have to be aware. What does it mean? Okay, I found that I can actually break it down into 4 simple points that you have to actually take care. One is, make your data computable. This is the first thing that a developer, okay, of EHS has to actually understand. Okay, your data, you have to ensure that it is computable. This is a very complex problem in healthcare because most of the data is textual. Okay, it is not like an ERP where everything is a financial data and it is inherently computable. So here it's about making it textual data computable so that machines understand it well. Okay, now I have briefly defined what computability means in the end. Okay, it's about unambiguously interpreting and analyzing and deriving inferences from data. Okay, machines should be able to unambiguously do this without making mistakes, and it has to be always correct, because every decision in healthcare is critical. It affects somebody's health. Okay, so it has to be computable and it has to be accurate, and most of the data is textual. Okay, this is the biggest challenge. Okay, second, you have to ensure that it is semantically interoperable. Okay, so what does it mean? Again, I've tried to briefly define it. Okay, you can read it again. Exchanging data with unambiguous shared meaning. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of similarities between computability and semantic interoperability. Okay, if you have one, you almost have the other one. Okay, so both are talking about data being unambiguous, okay, and understood by systems. Okay, so whether it is your own system for computing or another system that you hand over the data to. Okay, so that these are 2 important pillars of an EHR design. Think long term. Again, I've already mentioned it. 80 plus years. So you have to think 100 years when you design your data, your EHR data. Okay, this is the most important, one of the most important aspects that developers have to be aware of. Okay, so data will live, and they are defined by a lot of regulations and standards. Okay, so you have to see how you're going to actually manage this. Okay, and design for rapid changes. Healthcare is evolving so fast. As you speak, as you design, you will see your data is evolving. Okay, healthcare is what is classically called an evidence-based science. That means everything in healthcare happens because of evidence of past past achievements, past things that we have actually achieved. Okay, so data drives further innovation, and which drives the nature of data itself. Okay, so it's very rapid. Changes are happening. So you can't design your data store or EHR data with a rigid structure. You have to have a very dynamic and and volatile, changing. So your designs have to take care of all this. So if you really look at these 4 points and really make sure that your system is able to manage these 4 systems, you almost have it. Okay, so from a developer, I've tried to simplify it. I hope it is actually done well for you. So you don't have to worry about 50, hundreds of pages of data. You just have to actually think of these 4 different points. Okay. Now, okay, with all that learning, how do you get the design right? Okay, so we were talking about how to get the design right first time. Okay, so here again, you have to there is some thinking, there is some understanding of the data that becomes important. Okay, so there are a lot of challenges in EHR data. Okay, I've mentioned a lot of it. Okay, it's extremely diverse again and unbounded. That means there is no real boundary which tells you what is EHR data. Okay, so it would mean something to somebody and another thing to another person. Okay, so every specialist has their own data sets. So it's very unbounded. It is evolving. It is changing. Okay, and it's predominantly textual. Okay, this puts a big stress on how you actually design a data repository for EHR. Okay, you need to deliver on EHR standards. So you have to think of those 4 different points. Okay, 4 points that I mentioned. You have to deliver on those. Your repository. Okay. And doctors, engineers talk different language. They just don't understand each other. This is reality. Okay, so if you try to actually build a system where, okay, you both sit together and try to design it, it actually is going to, create a lot of friction. Okay, so engineers keep complaining that doctors don't give everything upfront, and doctors keep complaining that engineers don't know what they are doing. They're not designing anything for us. This is a constant, complaint that you keep hearing. So you have to have models where there is space for both. Okay, so what is the secret sauce? How do you create this magic design? Okay, so you have to look at layering your information architecture. Okay, now, okay, I will try to explain this a little bit more as we go along. So in this layering, you can create space for everybody. So like engineers can operate at one layer, where like they don't have to worry about anybody interfering with their work, and they know that I know what I'm doing, so I don't want anybody to tell me. Okay, so you can do that. Doctors will have their own space where they're able to actually work. Okay, and all this can come together into a beautiful EHR system. Okay, so this is like this is something that okay, that is the secret sauce of this whole thing. Okay, now what are the layers? So if you look at it, this is my learning. Okay, so there is like space for improvement on this. Fundamentally, everything happens on an information layer. Okay, this is about system engineering. This is about scalability, privacy, security, scalability, the whole lot of information system engineering. Okay, and engineers really know about it. It's a comfort zone of engineers. Okay, they can create complex engineering architectures for your engineering systems. Okay, the only difference here is when you design the system in EHR, you don't know what data is going to run on it. This will be the biggest challenge that you have. So you have to be able to engineer systems which can work with any kind of data thrown at it. Okay, so this will be the biggest challenge in information design, information modeling. Okay, engineers. Okay, because doctors are going to come and now decide what data they want to manage on on the systems that you have engineered. Okay, so next layer comes the domain model. Here, what are you trying to do? You're trying to define this domain as data. Okay, so the whole healthcare paradigm, the healthcare system, we need to define as data points. Okay, so that you can actually manage them. So you can create the EHR which manages those data points, okay, in the way they should be managed. Okay, so everybody benefits from that. So this is the next. So you have to create this domain model, where what it means is like you need to look at the whole healthcare, which has got probably like thousands of data points that govern the healthcare system, and you have to look at breaking down into reusable data sets. Okay, these can be reused in your system, and they are layered on top of the information model. Okay, so here doctors and health experts actually take the lead. So they know their work. Okay, they don't need engineers to actually help them do that. Engineers will probably create tools for them to actually put that into a language that they can communicate with the engineers, and they will design the system, and they can keep changing, and the information model that engineers have designed will take it. Okay, because it is designed to take any information that comes. So you are now trying to manage the conflict. Okay, by layering and making layers independent. Okay, so that is the second stage. Now your system is ready. Now your EHR system is ready to actually manage data. Okay, so then you go to actual care process. When the care process happens is when actually you start gathering data. Okay, you start gathering data into this information system that you've designed. At this point, what you do is you basically instantiate the domain models. Okay, like for example, one of the example of a domain model is probably the vitals. Okay, vital measurement is an example. Okay, of a set of data points that you measure in a healthcare context. Now, when you want to record the vitals of a patient, it's like a class. Okay, the classes and instances of classes in programming paradigm. So you instantiate the domain models, and then you gather information into those models in the context of a person. Okay. Now here another magic comes. Okay. Now how do you make the data that is going in? Because again, coming back to the older problem, predominantly textual information is predominantly textual. So how do you make it computable? How do you make it semantically interoperable? By being able to define every concept that goes in an unambiguous way. So you need a library of terms. Okay, here something magic comes. Okay, you need an ontological library. Okay, of healthcare. Okay, and here who plays? Here the players are not doctors, not engineers. We can help, but it's really the language people. It's actually the social sciences people who can actually create that ontology. Okay, so that every term that you use in healthcare is unambiguously defined and understood by everybody. Okay, so these are the three basic layers. If you get them right, then you can actually get a good design in place. Okay. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, okay, what this is about. Okay, how you going to get this done? Actually, it is not that difficult. Okay, it is like there are a lot of tools that are available there that would actually help you realize this. Okay, now the information model part is, again, like you said, engineers, like I said, engineers actually know, so there's not much advice that is required. Okay, it's fairly stable. How do you define a scalable system? How do you define a secure? How do you create a secure system? Information architecture. These are all very much there. Engineers know it. It's stable, mature. Okay, and one job that engineers have done extremely well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Okay, domain model. Now this is a little challenging. Okay, so there are. I don't have a parallel to explain this, but I'm sure this is like this kind of models exist in all kinds of domains. Okay. Luckily here, there's a community, open source community called OpenEHR. Okay. So they have done a lot of work for you. Okay. So they have a open source repository of domain models called Clinical Knowledge Manager. They have hundreds of ready clinical models. I'll take you briefly through it and explain it. So all you have to do is take and use it. They also have tools which can help you create new ones where things are not existing. Okay, so here again, you don't have to do a lot of work. You can actually pick up from what is there and build on it. Okay, concept model. Okay, here NRCS has done almost all the hard work for you. Okay, they have SNOMED-CT is by far the global standard in this ontology now. It's becoming universal, okay, at least in the English speaking areas. Okay, so it is like India is actually a signatory to SNOMED-CT, part of the consortium. So we have free license to use that in India. And NRCS has gone on and created many tools that allow you to just use it, okay, in your applications. Okay, so they continuously coming out with the national extensions. They have they have software tools that allow you to do that. Okay, so a lot of it is done. Again, you don't have to worry. All you have to do is layer all this and top it up with APIs for applications and data exchange. Okay, so that's how I think you can do it. So if you follow these things, I think it's not a complex process. Okay. Okay, now let's look at a little more deeper into each of the models. Okay, information model. Okay, though I said engineers know what to do, I thought I should highlight some key points that you can actually keep in mind while designing. Privacy is a key aspect of any EHR system. So you have to design privacy into the architecture itself. Okay, so you can actually, you get some cues from OECD privacy by design principles, okay, which tell you about minimal data and like segregated data and things like that. Okay, so you have to think of segregating your repository into multiple pieces. Okay, so that there is some design, there's some privacy built into your design, and you have to be consent aware. Okay, consent is going to be the way personal data is going to be managed in the future. So you have to make sure that your systems are aware. Okay, security. Okay, web. I'm sure you're all designing for the web. The future. Okay, any EHR system of the future has to be web enabled. Okay, because you're talking about interoperating with different systems and being available. Okay, on the cloud. So you have to think about OWASP top 10. That's probably the minimal security that you have to be worried about. Of course, you have to have access controls, consent hooks that you actually you build into your auth flow, so that when a consent manager comes up, you are able to plug in encryption, secure auth, all these kind of standard stuff. Audit and forensics is another extremely important thing. Okay, wherever you talk about privacy, you have to talk about audit and forensics as well, because one is, okay, you build systems that maintain privacy, and you have to have systems which monitor whether any breach is happening, because one of the aspects of privacy is also informing people when a breach happens. Okay, so audit and forensics is extremely important. Audit logs, you have to have audit logs in your system. Okay, you have to be able to aggregate and process the logs. Okay, so that you can actually create alerts and visualizations out of it, which will help you, okay, give warnings, to identify any breaches happening, and and provide warnings. Okay, so these are kind of things that are going to be expected out of EHR systems. The data schema, it has to be dynamic, and it has to be domain model driven. Okay, and it will be application specific. Okay, so every EHR application will have a specific data sets that they would want to manage. Okay, so these are some basic things that you can keep in mind when you design your your basic information model. Okay, now domain model. I've told you that OpenEHR. Okay, there's a lot of work that has been done. So I'll probably go a little more deeper into it, so that those of you who have not heard about OpenEHR or experimented with it. Okay, I'll try to bring them up to speed a little bit. So what is the principle there? It says, okay, shared models supporting semantic interoperability. Okay, so you have to model, first is you have to model your domain. Okay, as as information sets, and these have to be shared. Okay, so that everybody understands your schema. Okay, so if you so that helps in the interoperability. So that's one principle that you work. Now, you might be wondering that, okay, as an IT professional, I can do a great job at it. Okay, but I'm saying don't go ahead and create another domain model. Okay, because you're going to break interoperability. Okay, one is modeling domain, but your models have to be shared and used widely. Then only it actually supports semantic interoperability. Okay, so do not create, adopt the existing ones, and I recommend OpenEHR. Okay, but it's your choice. You can actually look around and see if there are better ones. Okay. It has got 30+ years of maturity, and it is mentioned in the EHR standards as a modeling standard. Okay, so you are in good company by going with OpenEHR. They already have hundreds of peer-reviewed, openly shared data sets. Okay, so there's a lot of knowledge that has actually gone in from global experts who've created these models for you. So chance of you going wrong with using them is very low. So by all means, experiment with these. Okay, and it covers most of the common needs. Okay, there may be edge cases which it doesn't cover, but I think in my experience it covers probably 80 to 90% of the requirements at the current situation. Okay, and it is evolving continuously. You can also join the community and contribute and evolve it further. Okay, you can join, contribute, and adopt. Okay, so I've given a brief picture of the CKM on the right, and you can see on the left side. Okay, some models that are listed. I'll take one example and then briefly walk through what does it mean by a model. So this is the model, OpenEHR model for blood pressure. Okay, so anybody who was actually designing a EHR system would be thinking, okay, what is so great? Okay, we typically look at BP and say it's systolic, diastolic. But if you look at like this model, for example, you can see that like the systolic diastolic is just 2 data points here, or right top. Okay, and there are so many other data points that are related to measuring blood pressure in a healthcare situation. Okay, so if you are starting off and you are trying to design your own model, it will take you a lot of time before you learn all this and create a model like this. So this has come because many doctors, many people who have actually gone through this exercise have actually found requirements and created this model. So all OpenEHR models are maximalist. That means they try to cover every conceivable situation in healthcare where this data is going to be used. Okay, so it's more complex than just adding 2 tables to your database. Okay, so it's better to explore this and understand this. Okay. Now, if you look at the data, okay, this is the modeling tool that they have. So if you explore this, you can see it is not just the data. Okay, you also need to worry about state, protocol, where was the measurement taken? Okay, which device was used to take measurement? What was the state of the person? Okay, was he standing? Was he sitting? Or did he actually come? Did he take a 15-minute rest before actually the measurement was taken? Okay, what are the sleep status? So there are so many variations which become important in multiple situations. Maybe for a GP, you just use 2 data points, but in a cardiac surgeon, when a cardiac surgeon records BP, you may actually need all of these points. So, okay, so you can, as you see, OpenEHR models already tell you all this knowledge, so you don't have to worry about taking time and learning this and making these mistakes. Okay, just go ahead and use this. Okay, you will not go wrong. Okay, this is just to give you an idea of how many people have contributed to some of these models. Okay, see, this is a list. Okay, again taken from the OpenEHR CKM, Clinical Knowledge Manager. See, as you can see, there are hundreds of people who have actually contributed to creating these models. Okay, so you are by using them, you are actually gaining from all their knowledge. Okay. Now, okay, I spoke about domain models that OpenEHR is working on, but OpenEHR is not just about shared models. It is about their philosophy is actually about shared everything, not just the clinical models. Okay, so there is a meta query language that is defined called AQL, Archetype Query Language. The idea here is that the queries are interoperable. That means you can actually write a query in an OpenEHR system, and the same query can work on any OpenEHR design system. Okay. Similarly, there is GDL, Guideline Definition Language, which is actually a rule definition syntax. Okay. Again, rules are typically used in CDSS and all kinds of different situations, workflow management. Okay. Think of a library of reusable rules that you have. Okay, that you can actually just use in your system and they work. Okay, think about this. Think about an array of queries. So tomorrow's business could be like somebody who actually who writes AQLs and as a service for anybody. Okay, so by coming onto this platform, you actually are entering into into a completely different way of doing things. Okay. Okay, now we've discussed about the information model and the domain model, concept model. Okay, this is where you actually define every concept. Okay, that goes into EHR data. Okay, so this is what is called ontology for healthcare, and SNOMED CT is the standard. Okay, India, for us, definitely India, India SNOMED CT is a standard, and the idea is to explain everything unambiguously. Okay, like for example, like some myocardial infarction. Okay. Yeah, so how do you define it so that anybody who sees the data understands it unambiguously, okay, with all the context? So you can see this is this diagram at the right bottom has been taken from SNOMED CT browser. It explains this in context. So this whole context of myocardial infarction, there are many relationships, where it's part of hierarchy. Using all this, we've completely defined, SNOMED CT has completely defined this, so that it can be understood unambiguously by anybody. So anybody recording myocardial infarction, if it is, if you use SNOMED CT, the concept, using the concept, you can get everything about that particular concept. And SNOMED CT is standard. You don't need to look anywhere else. Just take SNOMED CT. It's free for use in India, and NRCS is continuously doing a lot of work to make adoption simpler and simpler. So there's a link here. You can just go click there and then read all about it. So there's a lot of information there. What are the tools, ready-made tools available? At different levels. One is this whole terminology service is available as an API. So we provide this, but there could be other people also who provide this. So all you have to do is just consume these APIs and integrate into your application, and you have concept coding in your applications. You can code every concept using SNOMED CT. So there is no work for you to do. Or you can run your own service. So there is CSNO serve from NRCS. It's free download. You can just download and there are instructions. You can set it up and run your own service and use that to integrate into your applications. Or if you are more adventurous, you can actually build your own service. There is, you can base it on CSNO TK from NRCS again. That's a Java library. You can actually build your own service. With your own flavor from that, if you are adventurous. National extensions, there are many national extensions. There is a core SNOMED CT international distribution, and then there are many national extensions that NRCS has already come out with and continues to come out with. This link will take you there. You can, all these are again, if you are an associate member of SNOMED CT, which is free, you can sign up as a free member. And all these national extensions, everything is free for you to use. So just download and use them. We have actually put up some demo APIs, a list of demo APIs in this link. So if you want to just feel how the data comes, from these services, you can just go and look at this demo. So that will help you plan your deployment. How do you want to integrate and all? And we also put some Postman collection of these APIs in this GitLab public repository. Feel free to actually take it and use, understand. It should all help you make this integration easier. How does it actually work? So I thought this is actually a screenshot from an application that we have done. So we are on the left. You can see that we are actually this doctor screen for recording diagnosis. As a doctor types, we do a type ahead search on the terminology APIs and brings up a list of words that matches what the doctor is looking for, and the doctor can pick up whatever he or she feels appropriate for what she's trying to record, and it gets recorded. So this is the pickup. Left side you have the pickup screen, and on the right side, for information, I have displayed all the codes as well. So this is the information that goes into the system, and when you retrieve it back, you always get this information about the name, the code, the concept ID, and the terminology. So these are the three things that you would actually be putting into your EHR repository. Why terminology? Because any EHR system will be using multiple terminologies. Like in India, if you look at it, LOINC is still the standard for lab resulting and things like that. So you have to also you have to put the concept ID to uniquely say which is a concept that you are actually using here, and you also have to say from which terminology service that concept ID has come. For full understanding of it, and of course you can keep the term itself, because that will be used in all displays. So now you are able to query your data using the concept ID as well. So that gives that makes the data fully computable and understood. So these are some screenshots from some of the extensions that NRCS has actually created. Okay, so they have a drug extension, so which can be used to actually code your medication orders. Okay, so like first one is on the top. You've got the generic medicine. So if you're actually using a generic order, you can actually pick up that. So they have like some close to 6,000 plus generics in the drug database as of now, and it is like it is improving by the day. And if your system wants to actually order using packaged drugs, that is also possible. Okay, both these are enabled by the extensions, SNOMED CT drug extension from NRCS. Okay, so by putting all this, like you have all this right at you don't have to do any hard work. Okay. Now, I hope that kind of gives you a picture of how you can do this. Okay, I am open to more questions. I thought I'll leave you with some last thoughts and what I'm like as a company, what we are driving towards, and what is our vision of of how an EHR ecosystem can be created. Okay, so after hearing all this, you can think about, do you want to build everything on your own? Okay, is that or do you want to collaborate, support, and share? Okay, so that we are able to create an ecosystem and build faster. Okay, as you see on the infographics on the right, kind of tries to capture the complex layers in an EHR ecosystem. Okay, at the center is where the real data lies. This is where you have the three-layer design, okay, data design concepts of like information model, domain model, and concept models. All these go, and then you have auth mappings which control how information is managed here. And then you have multiple layers, okay, of how the data goes in the way it should. You have terminology library, drug database, all these things are used to ensure that the data is going in a semantically interoperable way. Okay, and you have APIs and like the consent and access control, security, everything layered together. And you can see the applications outside. Okay, they have nothing to worry about. They're free to evolve the way they want. Okay, as long as they conform to the APIs provided by the inside layers. Okay, so that way these applications can actually keep evolving, but the core remains constant. But as you can see, this is a very complex ecosystem. If all of us are trying to build this, okay, all of us are going to spend a lot of duplicate effort trying to create everything ourselves. So my vision, okay, for the community is we should look at creating ecosystems where like we come together and create best of breed products, everything available as an API. Like we have actually provided terminology as an API. We have a complete EHR platform which is available as an API. Okay, so we believe, like of course, customer facing, there are going to be a lot of opportunities in creating EHR systems, EHR solutions, which work with the end user and work with the doctors and all that. But there is also going to be another business opportunity that is coming up. This is the opportunity of healthcare APIs. Okay, so all these different components on the right, all these application builder can actually consume these APIs. Okay, so decision point is going to shift for application developers from subscribe versus build. Okay, so once these APIs start becoming available, once these healthcare APIs are becoming more and more of these are available, the decision point becomes very easy for developers. They just have to either decide whether to subscribe or build their own. And I think the obvious choice would be to subscribe because it makes their life so much more easier. Okay, so this is what I want to leave you with, and I am open to questions. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, shall I stop sharing now?
Yeah, sure, you can.
Okay, where do I do that? Stop sharing here. Okay. Okay.
So now we can start with the question and answer session, and Mrs. Manisha Mantri from NRCS will join you for that.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Dilip, for this extensive presentation and your sharing of your experience for implementing to standards in line, and how do you take care of the clinical model and the domain constraints all together, along with using SNOMED City. So thank you so much for that. We have few questions from the attendees here.
Yeah.
The first question is why it has been so difficult to implement EHRs in the country. The guidelines were issued in 2013 and then they were updated in 2016, but still there are efforts going on. So any comments on that? I understand it's a general question. Yeah.
Correct. I guess there are multiple challenges here. Okay, like some are technical. As I have tried to do in this presentation, I have tried to actually simplify it for the developer. But left to a developer, okay, if you tell them you go read all these standards, understand and implement it, it's not going to happen. Okay, and then it's so much of dynamicity. So that is why efforts like these also will help. So a lot of developers do not understand while they all feel that okay they want to do something about it. I've seen a lot of people struggling to understand what is expected of them. Okay, so like this talks like this and what Dr. Pramod gave a couple of weeks back, I'm sure is going to help developers feel free, okay, to actually understand, and they get exposed to newer and newer available tools that will help them. So that is the technology side of things. Okay, so where if developers feel confident that they can create really good systems, I'm sure they will push for people to adopt it. They will showcase their capability and then people will start adopting it. That is one side of the push. The other side is definitely the healthcare ecosystem needs a lot of education. Okay, so I was talking to somebody else yesterday about building on our platform, and one of the things that they said is they're targeting the small and medium hospital clinic sector, and none of them have ever asked them about standards. Okay, so there is a lot of awareness creation that needs to happen, and there is a lot of pressure that needs to be built to actually force them to understand these. So it's happening with things like NDHM now. So I'm very confident. Okay, I was always confident when 2016 I took the plunge. I was confident that EHS standards are going to come. Okay, I continue to believe it, and now everything we have done is with that vision. So I wouldn't worry too much that it does not happen, but I think it's going to happen. Yeah.
Yes. Just to add to the comment,
Yes.
is when we say adoption of EHRs, there are a lot of things associated with it. It is not only about the standards. So the notification was for using standards in healthcare systems in EHRs. But when we talk about adoption of EHR, it has multiple facets, like the starting from the readiness of adoption of health, the IT systems in health itself, then the policy, then decisions, and then the implementation of the EHRs itself, and then the problems of interoperability, data sharing would come, and there the standards come in picture. So it is a big area altogether, and the good thing is that we, even if we don't say that it is not completely visible, but it in lot of bits and pieces and at a very larger scale, the digitization and health IT standardization is happening. We have the digitization example as NDHM already started implementation. So there are a lot of positive things happening in the country, and I think it will take time, but definitely we'll have to reach there.
Okay. Thanks, yeah. Manisha. Well said.
The next question is about when you said that we need to think for 80+ years of life of data. What are your thoughts behind that? How do you look into having this data for 80+ years? And yeah, this is an open question.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm saying, okay, you are not alone in that. Okay, so that is what the standards are there actually for. Okay, it is to guide you to think like that. Okay, to enable you to design systems which will do that. That's the whole point of standards. Okay, so So there is like, the codes are not going to change, even if they do. Like for example, SNOMED CT is evolving. They have 6 months. So, but there's a backward compatibility that they build into their the newer releases. Okay, so that the older data also can be interpreted. Okay, so there are different techniques that the standard itself includes. Okay, there's versioning of models. Okay, your clinical models can be versioned. Your SNOMED CT is version, so you could actually have details of which version that you are using. So there are different tools that will help you. So that is why, like when you look at the data part, you have to be very aware of the standards. You have to kind of understand the standards and try to work within that, so that a lot of these things will get covered. Okay, so yeah, so that it is a little challenging, but as long as you build systems which can evolve and also tell you which be able to understand the older piece of data. Okay, so OpenEHR actually allows you to do that, because you can version the templates, okay, or the data models. So your system will still keep the older models. So you can actually keep the older models, which are definitions of data sets, okay, and use that to interpret the older data. So your data is never lost. And if there is a need, you can always look at writing a script to migrate from older models to the newer models, which is not a necessity, because as long as you have the model, you can interpret the data. Okay, so these tools are designed with that in mind. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and in fact, government also plans to keep health records as long as and as much persistent as possible. The same is the being noted in EHR standards for India. So yes, we will have to think of having a lifelong health data, and then it has to be interpretable, readable, and shareable. So these standards comes in picture. Yes. So our next question is about what are your opinion on you working of domain experts closely with the developers to come together on a good EHR?
Yeah.
Whether and a comment is government should encourage such participation. What are your views on that?
We should actually. This is not something that that engineers can do alone, or doctors or domain experts can do alone. You need both expertise to come together to actually do this. Okay, but you have to have a mechanism where both can operate with their own independence. That is the challenge here. Okay, so in conventional design, what happens is like you get some inputs from doctors, and based on which the engineers go back and design a database, come back, and the moment the solution is given to the doctor looks at, uses it for 2 days, and he starts suggesting changes. Okay, which are core changes that will involve design changes to the database. Okay, now the engineers start getting irritated. Okay, I've seen this this literally happen many times, okay, in my experience. So that is why you need both, but you also need a framework to allow both to operate with their own independence and their own competency. Okay, so where nobody else is interfering with them. Okay, so that is the challenge. That is where I was talking about layering the information architecture, so that everybody gets their own areas and they are able to contribute, and we are able to bring all these things together in an implementation. So we have best of both worlds. Okay, so that's the idea. So you need it, but you have challenges, so you have to have a mechanism to manage the challenges.
Yes, well said. Yeah. So in OpenEHR, they provide this through archetype modeling, and in FHIR, they provide it through profiling. So two different paradigms provided by two different set of standards. Right. So our next question is again on OpenEHR and FHIR itself. Okay. So the question is about OpenEHR and FHIR data model doesn't play along well. How did you make it interoperable? So is that you have integrated OpenEHR? That is very clear. Right. Yeah. Is that the FHIR integration efforts are also being taken care of?
Yeah. So, okay, if you understand the intent, okay, both of this, then I think it becomes a little more clearer. Okay. So both are actually, both standards have been designed with completely different intent. Okay. FHIR was designed looking at what is existing now and said, okay, now we have all these existing systems which manage data in so many different ways. Now, how do you define a common standard, okay, to enable sharing between these systems? Okay, so there the approach is minimal. Okay, what is the minimal data set? The question was, what is the minimal data set that needs to be shared to ensure continuity of care? Okay, so that was a paradigm. Okay, so there are a lot of systems that have data which will not fit into a FHIR profile. Okay, potentially, yeah. So at some point, maybe the FHIR profiles will mature to that level, but then it becomes too unwieldy. Okay, so there's always this compromise that that FHIR designers take in defining the profiles. Okay, whereas OpenEHR comes from a different paradigm to say that what if we design systems where the schema itself is interoperable? Okay, my schema of data itself is public. So the data becomes interoperable by design. So you don't have to have an interface level interoperability that FHIR actually tries to build. So the reality is you need both. Okay. So the way we look at it is we look at building FHIR as an exchange interface where the target systems are not OpenEHR compliant. Okay, but the repository itself we build in OpenEHR because our experience shows that it gives a lot more flexibility in designing very rich EHR applications using OpenEHR APIs, OpenEHR models. Okay, they give you so much of flexibility in designing your systems, whereas FHIR, because of its the intent, it is designed with certain limitations built in. Okay, so that is the difference. So you would need both. My recommendation is, if you're building a new EHR system, build it using OpenEHR. You can always write a translation. Okay, it's a marshalling, unmarshalling layer that will actually expose FHIR APIs out of OpenEHR artifacts. That said, there is a lot of work that is happening in the community to create these interfaces, these translators from OpenEHR data to a FHIR resource. Okay, so that is that's also happening. Okay, yes, so that is my learning.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, if I see if I see at OpenEHR, I think it is more for data model and storage. It takes care of managing and designing an EHR system.
Yes.
And FHIR is primarily a flexible data exchange standard, which yes, you can of course use it for storage and other things also, but there are few things like managing versioning, searching across using archetype query language, and these kind of features are there in OpenEHR. So we should see it as two standards complementing each other. If you have existing software systems which are OpenEHR compliant, then you can always share data in FHIR format through OpenEHR integration model. So those efforts are ongoing, and things would progress.
Thank you, Manisha. Yeah.
Yes. So we have few other questions. So I would like to quickly wrap up as we are ending to the time of this webinar. So how, if you have used Nomad-City post-coordinated expressions, then how did you handle them effectively?
We haven't. Okay. See, the using OpenEHR models, actually OpenEHR is also a way of post-coordination. Okay, OpenEHR models. Most of the models involve some level of post-coordination there itself. Like for example, severity. Okay.
Severity.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, severity. When you record a diagnosis, severity is another field that is available in OpenEHR. So so you don't need to create a complex post-coordinated expression there. Okay, if you take that approach. Okay, and that is the approach that we take most of the places, because what we have found is the biggest challenge is actually building the UIs to enable creation of this post-coordinated expressions and also displaying it in a proper way. Okay, so as an API vendor, we we didn't want to actually do anything, and we have not used much. But that said, like if you want to keep post-coordinated expressions and you're able to build a nice UI, which will in your application, which allows you to do that, we should be able to manage it within OpenEHR models in the data repositories that we have.
Yes. So yeah, I have also shared one guide which tells about the implementation consideration while you're doing post coordination. So that may be of help.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just skipping on to few questions which have been answered by the moderator here.
Okay.
And yeah, coming on to the next question about is the interoperability restricted to OpenEHR systems? How does it handle query from EPIC or OpenEMR, for example?
Epic.
Okay. Yeah, Epic.
Epic OpenEMR.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't run an Epic query in OpenEHR because Epic data models and their database design is not transparent. So we don't know how that is done. So, and same with the OpenEMR as well. Okay, so these are other systems which have gone with the conventional design paradigm. Okay, where there is a database table design and then you write queries for that. Here, OpenEHR, what OpenEHR tries to do is it tries to abstract that database design away from the query. Okay, so the query is actually designed with the path. Every node, data point in OpenEHR is uniquely identifiable. Okay, so using that you can write the queries. So in theory, a AQL, a query written in OpenEHR, any OpenEHR system, is interoperable with any other OpenEHR system. Okay, so that is like what it tries to achieve. If there is a transparency in the data models that Epic or OpenEMR provides, then there should be a way of writing translators to do that. Okay, but I have not come across anything like that. I've also felt not come across a need for doing that.
Sure, yeah. Sure. So the next question is probably I may be able to answer. Yeah. Government is the largest generator of health data, and use of SNOMED-CT or ICD-10 is not being observed in the government facilities where thousands of patients have been treated on daily basis through OPDs, and how we drive those policy initiatives there. So the answer to this question is there are all initiatives happening at the government side also to integrate standards. The EHR standards for India applies to all the players in healthcare, including private as well as the public sector. And NRCS, since from our experience, NRCS has already onboarded many government projects and the softwares being used to be standardized and use standards, including SNOMED-CT, ICD-10, HL7, another set of standards for security, privacy, data storage. To name a few, eHospital, eShushrut, even currently used eSanjeevani OPD uses SNOMED-CT, and so many. So there is a list there. So the things are going on. Things are progressing, happening. We need to keep a very positive attitude towards it, and we'll see more and more implementations, standardized implementations. The next question is, how do you think about using FHIR server as a persistent layer while still using OpenEHR archetypes? Since many companies like Google, Microsoft offer FHIR as a service. So many questions on OpenEHR and FHIR.
Yeah. So again, coming back to it's the same thing. Okay, FHIR is an API. Okay, it's not okay. Originally, it was not designed to be a persistence layer. Okay, it was always designed. The intent of FHIR was always the interface layer to enable interoperability between multiple systems which follow different internal architecture. Okay, so that continues to stay. That said, there have been efforts at using FHIR as a FHIR repositories as your persistence, but my personal experience and my personal opinion is that if you're designing a new system, that may not be the best way of doing it. Okay, for at least for EHR data. Okay, so there are some other services that you can actually build pretty okay with FHIR resources. Like if I am building an appointment service or a task service, I could probably build it with a native FHIR, okay, resources as persistence. But I wouldn't attempt to do that with the EHR data because there is so much of dynamism, okay, and and evolution, and there is so much of richness that you can actually bring into a EHR repository if you use something like OpenEHR, okay, as opposed to a FHIR repository. Okay, this is our personal learning, and we strongly believe that if you're designing a new persistent system, you should consider using OpenEHR as your persistent layer, but build a FHIR interface for exchange of your data with other FHIR compliant systems. Okay, that's our learning.
Yes. So we have the next question. It is more about the profit. So there are so many EHR products in the market. Is there a room for them to be there and stay profitable?
Yeah, I believe we are just just starting to move. India is starting to move. There is I think opportunity for 100 other players, but the way to build is what I am actually trying to say. We have to move away from the traditional way of building. Okay, like for example, if you look at why India doesn't have an EHR system like Epic, okay, or Cerner, okay, being built in India, because the price point, the ability of Indian market to absorb cost is very, very low. Okay, I have seen in my personal experience that you create a system for the US and you create a similar or better system for India, you probably can get 1/50th or 1/100th of the price that that you can get in the US. Okay, so that's going to remain a challenge in Indian market. Anybody who's building systems for Indian market. So we have to go away from the conventional way of investing a lot of money into creating these systems to creating an ecosystem where we all come together to create best of breed products as APIs, and application developers can quickly integrate this into excellent applications. Okay, so that's what I believe is is the way India should be building its EHR infrastructure. There is place for everybody. Okay, it's not a mature market. It is not a overcrowded market at all.
Yes, and the innovations are always accepted, and there is no restriction on developing rich user interfaces, trying new technologies. Just that data needs to be standardized, as you said, Dilip. Yes, with that, after overshooting for around 8 minutes, we have no questions now, and few questions being already answered by the moderator. But there is one question about how to set up a Snowmate terminology server, so that you have already done it, and
Yes.
we have posted few of the links there. You want to add to that?
No, I think, see, I told you there are 2-3 ways. Okay, one is you can just download the CSNO server from NRCS CDAC repository and just use it. Okay, or you can download the toolkit and build your own. Okay, if you are still adventurous, there are also other open source projects that are available out there which you can actually use to build. So there are so many ways of doing it. I think just a question of looking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So thank you so much, Dilip, for patiently answering all the questions. And it was really great session. I also enjoyed a lot of recap happened for me. Divya, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, for answering all the questions. And with this, we come to an end of today's webinar session. And on behalf of NRCS, I would like to thank each and every one for being a part of this event and for sharing your thoughts and for your support. You can email us your feedbacks, queries, and any more webinar topics that you may be interested in. You may also keep in check on the NRCS website for any future updates on our webinar series. So we can conclude our session now. Thank you once again.
Okay. Thank you, Manisha and other, Achyut and other team members. Okay, thank you for giving me an opportunity, and I hope I've been able to do justice to the time you gave me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, take care. Bye.